let's talk about what we're going to build today. So, and I feel pretty good about it. Today we're going to, I think this is going to be a two-parter, and it's going to deal with code generation. And I feel like at the end of this one, between all of the code generation pieces that we've talked about, I think there's probably about like, we're going to be around like 3 hours worth of content. I feel like it's kind of like from beginning to advanced course in code generation in Visual Studio. And I feel like if you want to do code generation, you watch these videos, this will give you a lot, it'll answer a lot of your questions and show you basically how to go about it. So one of the suggestions we received, and I do not remember where I had got this question from. Wait, hold on, I think I just found it. Here we go, let's bring it up. How about a plugin to add IDisposable to existing classes? That was the suggestion that came up from James Counts. So that came up on 2 days ago on Twitter. So we saw that, and that's what we're going to build today. So let's do that. Back in this program, we wrote this program called Object Initializer Test a long time ago to test out our Object Initializer plugin that we wrote. And I'm just using this, you know, as we continue. I'm adding more things to it. I think over here in CarShow, remember we did our R equals check. There's the code issues right there. We wrote that I think yesterday. So we're going to what we're going to do this time is we're going to take a class that has resources in it, and we're going to write code that essentially looks like this. We'll have a dispose call in it. And also a VirtualDispose as well. So we'll implement it the proper way. That's kind of the idea. So we'll turn this essentially into something that looks like this. So that's what we'll do. So with that said, let's go into DevExpress, new plugin, and I'm going to call this the CR-Dispose O-Matic. And we'll click OK. Never actually created a plugin with dashes in it before. We'll see if that messes me up. All right, so on our toolbox, we want to drop some things on here. We want to have a code provider for sure.
Yep.
And let's just start with that. So with code provider, we're going to say provider name. We'll say implement IDisposable. Okay, and for description we'll say implements the IDisposable interface in this class.
So for those not particularly familiar with IDisposable, you're all familiar hopefully with the idea of a garbage collector, which under .NET is a wonderful facility, which means we don't have to deliberately clean up after our memory usage. However, when we use other types of resources, such as I think graphics handles and things like that, certainly under GDI+, these are finite in quantity, and we have to manually return these to the collection from which we get them. And this is what happens inside an IDisposable implementation. You basically tidy up after yourself when you are being eliminated. You don't get to control when that happens. That's down to the garbage collector itself. But when it calls on you to release the things you don't need anymore, this is what we're going to be doing here.
Yeah, and the tricky thing is if you is finding members that implement IDisposable and then disposing those properly as well. The reason I said I wanted this in two parts, Rory, is the first part's going to do what I just said, but the second part, what I wanted to do is find fields that are not disposed in our VirtualDispose method and add those, actually inject those into that dispose method, so we can later add more fields and then properly dispose of those as well.
Cool.
Yeah, so that'll be like the part two of this. That's at least what my intention is. Okay, so this is a code provider. That means it's going to show up on the blue section of the CodeRush refactor menu. What I've done is I've given it on the properties. I've given it a provider name and a corresponding display name, which is the same. We can change this if we want to. This is what appears in the menu. This is how we access this if we want to programmatically invoke this. So this is the unique name that we'll use to programmatically invoke it. And I give it a description. And so on the events, I need two important events here. One is check availability. The other is apply. There's also a prepare preview that I almost always do, and I think this time I am going to skip it for at least this session, for at least this live part, and maybe we'll add it later on. So let's double-click here to get an apply, and double-click on check availability. Let's set breakpoints here and here. And and I'll run. Or, you know, I wanted to restart Visual Studio because I broke my clipboard chain, which means I'll get the for each template needs that in place to work effectively, and so I guess I won't restart Visual Studio. I'll just deal with the for each template not working when I'm expecting it to. Okay, so let's open up Object Initializer Test. I'm expecting almost immediately to get a breakpoint in that check availability. In fact, if I do nothing at all, I'm expecting to see it. Maybe I have to, I'm not sure where the caret is. Let's go ahead and we'll move the caret right here. Now I should expect to see a breakpoint showing up in the other location. Here we go. And let's close this down. And I'm really happy with the Disposable name for this plugin, Rory. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this. We have one of the properties inside the event args is class interface or struct. That returns a language element, okay? But there's a very specific language element I'm interested in, and it's called class, like that. And so let's declare that as a local. We'll call this the, whoops, I've got call this the active class. And if that's null, we're out of there. And essentially what I want to do is I want to say if ea.caret.line equals activeClass.range.start.line, then, whoops, almost got it, then the caret's on the same line as the class declaration starts, then I'm going to say ea.available equals true.
Okay, now I'm not sure if we used the class interface or struct reference before in these webinars. Tell me, will that return the class in question simply by virtue of us being in a language element within the class, or do we have to be on the class itself and outside of anything else?
Well, let's find out.
Kind of a shortcut to the get parent that we've been using.
I'll just set a breakpoint on null here, and we'll see when and I'll run it, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So if we we're inside. Let's go outside. Now I'm expecting to hit it. There you go. So the answer is yes. This will find it if you're anywhere inside the class.
Cool. So effectively, it's a shortcut to get parent, passing in the class interface or struct as three potential options.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And when Rory says get parent, if you're new to this, what he's talking about is inside EA there's an element property. That's of type language element. Language element has a method called get parent. And then you can pass into it the language element type. So you can say language element type dot struct, for example, and that would give me a struct. It would go up the parenting chain. And this is very quick too. It's just if you think about, like, imagine deeply nested code. Say code nested 27 levels deep. It's just 27 checks of the parent to get all the way up out to the file node itself. And most of the time it's just like 2 or 3 checks out to get to it. So very fast to get that. Anyway, so active class is the active class. Now I just want to see if the caret line is the same as the range start line. And I'm going to say available is true. And let's just run it. And so now when we're here at the class declaration, when we hit the key, we should see, there you go, implement IDisposable. And if I hit enter on it, we set it our other breakpoint. Let's go ahead and continue to run. But what happens if we already implement IDisposable, but we're still available? We need to change that. See how it's available right there? So
yep.
let's, and we're already implementing it. So let's fix that. So let's go set a breakpoint here, and let's go to here. And now what I want to do is I want to say, let's add block delimiters. So we want to say active class.get base types. And what's the other parameter for that? Oh, the resolver. We can skip that. All right. So we'll go do this. Base types. There's my for each that's not going to work. Not going to get my iType element. With that item, let's see what we get to here. So let's run, and now we have 2 inside of there. And let's go down here. We get to item. What do we have inside item? Do we have a name? Let's bring up a debug windows. Let's bring up a watch window. See what item name is equal to. object. So that's the first one. Step, 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 IDisposable. So what we want to do is we're going to say if item.name equals IDisposable, then it implements IDisposable and we can get out of there. Otherwise, if we get down to here, we're on the start line of the active class and it does not implement IDisposable and we are going to be available. Okay? All right, let's run that. And so now when we're here, whoops, let's clear our breakpoint. And now we do not see it down here in the code section. And if we come up here to resource, we do see it, implement IDisposable. Just hit enter. Now we're in the apply. Well, let's go in and see what we've got. CodeRush.source.implement interface. It's looking for a type. Well, I want it to be that active class. EA.active class interface or struct. And as type declaration. And then the new interface, we'll do this, go to new interface. By the way, this is the hint that's on top from the piece that's behind us. So you may see this from time to time as we set breakpoints in here when that hint comes up. And the new interface is probably going to have a name parameter. There you go. And then we'll just pass in IDisposable again. Okay. And so let's just run that and see what happens. Not bad. Implemented IDisposable for us. However, it didn't really implement it. It just said that it does implement it. It didn't actually do the next step. The next step, let's see what happens when we ask Visual Studio to do it for us. All right, so Visual Studio just gives us this. All right, not so exciting. Okay, so we need to do more than just that piece there. We need to actually add a method that's called dispose, and we need to add some calls inside the method. So let's do that. I'm going to hit undo, get back to this starting point. Let's apply it again. Let's set a breakpoint in our other piece here. Okay, we've already got a breakpoint and apply. I think this checkability is done, by the way. All right, so let's apply it. And now inside of here, let's create a new element builder. And inside the element builder, let's add a new method. And the parent is going to be null, so I'm just going to create, well, let me see how to explain this. Add method, this parent parameter to add method allows me to set what the parent is of the thing I'm adding. If I specify null, it's going to be a top-level node, and I can actually put several of these together as top-level nodes, which is what I'm going to need to do. I'm going to need to have a method called dispose and another virtual method also called dispose, but that has an additional parameter disposing. You'll see that in the code when I finish the run, and you'll see that. But right now I can't switch to it because we're debugging. So the parent's going to be null. The member type, since I don't have a return type on this, I'm going to also specify null. I just want it to be void. And then the name of the method is going to be disposed. So element builder, if this is the first time you've encountered this, it's just a helper class for constructing code. You actually don't need to use it. You could actually just do things like this instead. New method, and then specify parameters on it, like for example, visibility, etc. Or actually visibility we're going to have to set anyway, but let's say name, for example. Name is equal to dispose. You could do something like this as well, but these add methods can they strip away some of that complexity. Element Builder has a method called generate on it, which generates all the code, excuse me, and then but there's also inside CodeRush.language, there's a method called generate element. And you can then pass it in a method to get its code. So this would be equivalent to the code above. Okay?
Cool.
All right, so I'm going to delete that. We're going to still work with Element Builder. Let's see. Okay, so generate code, it takes a parameter, the language ID. I'm going to grab the language ID from the event args, text document dot, and I think it's language. That's a string. That's going to be the language ID. So I'm going through the event args, and the reason why, we talked about this I think yesterday, Rory, in the session for identifying assignment expressions, and the reason I'm doing this is because this could be called programmatically from another location. The active language this is called from might be different from the language we're working on.
Yeah.
Okay, so programmatically, if I have a solution that has a VB and C# mixed projects in it, I want to make sure I'm generating code in the correct language. So I'm going to do this just to be safe. So generate code, that's going to return a string. I'll call this code. Let's do this. Let's go in and let's say ea.textDocument.insert lines. And pass in, wait, not insert lines, insert text, sorry, my bad. So insert text, and it takes a source point, and let's figure out what that's going to be. We'll just call this point for now, and the text is going to be code. And let's see what we can do for the point here. There is, I think, a method, CodeRush dot, oh, where is it? It's in language.get. First, no, get start. Oh, help me out here. What is it? It is, let me just type in first here. No, start. Get code block start. Yay. That's what I want. All right, and then so it returns the start of the code for the given language element. It's a little hokey to use. I talked to the devs about this earlier today, and we'll fix this, but we'll improve this. But for now, it works like this. I pass in the language element. This is going to be the class interface or struct. Let's set a marker here, and let's come up to this point. Use selection increase. Get the refactor key, introduce local. This is going to be the active class. Do an INX to get out of there. Escape to get back. Okay, so we're passing in the active class, and then ref start point like that. Oops, like that. Let's declare that local, and then what we want to do is, so what happens is this will change this to something other than source point.empty if it found it. So then we'll just say insert code there at the start point. So let's run that and see what happens. Okay, so not bad. So it found the start point. It put in dispose. However, it's all left indented and not formatted. So, and we have some other problems too. But let's fix the formatting first. So we've got that breakpoint still there. Let's hit undo. Oh, and undo again. Look what happened. I have to hit undo twice, Rory. So let's do it again. So we have a couple things we need to fix. Implement IDisposable. Let's fix the formatting first. So let's see. We call insert text. Insert text, if we hit the CodeRush refactor key, it actually offers declare local. And notice it returns a source range. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll call this the inserted range, like this. And then let's come down in here and we'll say ea.textDocument.format and pass in the range. Okay? So let's run it and see what happens. Okay? So not bad. So we've got dispose in there like that. If we hit undo, oh, it just undid the formatting, undo again, undoes the insertion, undo one more time, gets rid of IDisposable. So let's fix that next.
So that format's calling the standard Visual Studio formatting, but in theory, now that we have our own code formatting stuff in CodeRush, it will call that as well?
I think what it really does is it calls ours, and I think it actually goes to the options to see what you've asked to do. So I'm pretty sure it goes to ours unless in the options you've specified don't use the CodeRush formatter, I think. Okay. I'm pretty sure there's an option to ignore that. So let's do it again. We'll implement IDisposable. And now what I want to do is I want to fix that. So inside of, let's see, where were you actually modifying code? We're modifying code here in the format call, here in the insert.
And the implement interface.
Let's move this down so that it's all close together. Okay, so inside of the CodeRush object, there's something called text buffers. Inside there is a method called new multi-file compound action. We saw this before. We give it a description. Implement.
Do we need a multi-file one of those?
IDisposable. Oh, multi-file. Oh, maybe we don't.
Going to the text document has a new compound action. Is it compound action?
Let's look at that one instead. New compound action. That's what I want. Thank you, Rory.
No problem.
We don't need multi-file. Is the answer to your question?
Not this time, no.
That's why you're here, to make it awesome. Okay, so this is what shows up in the undo stack. Clear local on that. There's my compound action. Okay, now I'm going to come in. I need to try finally, and we'll pop in there. If not null, then combat action dot close. Come on, there you go. All right, and then let's take all this and put it inside, and that is going to get us one undo or multiple ops.
So the compound action has a close method. Is that itself called by the dispose? I'm wondering if we can change this into a using block instead.
You know, I don't have the answer. We can try playing with that. Let's run it and just see the effect, and then we'll try doing what you suggest. Because I was actually looking at that, I was thinking, why isn't that? All right, so now I hit undo, and everything goes away. So one keystroke, everything goes away. Okay, so let's try what Roy was suggesting. Let's do this and stick it in a using and put this down in here. Wouldn't that be awesome if the same thing worked? Run. Hey, it's running. Undo. Sweet. You know what? I love it, Rory, when there's evidence of brilliance.
Oh, there is.
You know what I mean? When you get a sense that, okay, yeah, people are doing it the right way, and so, okay, so that's good. So the next thing I want to do, though, is I want to, let's do this. I think I want to shut down and restart Visual Studio so I can get my clipboard back, is what I think I want to do. So let's do this. Let's go out to my About. And this is actually useful anyway. I'm going to bring up my plugins. And let's go back to my main instance of Visual Studio. We'll rip the ground out from that. We are going to shut this instance down right here, and I'm going to grab my plugins, date modified. There's my Disposomatic. I'm going to delete those DLLs.
Yeah, so you've set this up at the moment is if you didn't delete these, they'd be loaded by your first instance of Studio, which would make it rather hard to compile new versions because they'd become locked.
Yeah, agreed. So, all right, so here we go. We're starting a new instance of Visual Studio. And the reason I had to do this is because when I'm writing plugins, if I rip the ground out from underneath, it's the second instance of Visual Studio, the clipboard chain that everything's connected to gets disrupted and not restored. There's no opportunity for Visual Studio to restore it because it's not being shut down manually. So sometimes I rip the ground out because it's an instant shutdown of Visual Studio. It speeds up the edit, compile, test cycle. The downside is I lose some CodeRush features that depend on the clipboard history inside of the place that I'm working from.
That's sometimes why it might appear that CodeRush has a bug when in fact it really doesn't stand a chance with that kind of malicious hackage.
Yeah, what I need to do is what's possible to do though is to write a plugin that checks to see if the command that I'm about to execute is the stop debugging command, and then check to see if we're actually debugging a CodeRush plugin. And then if we are, send a message to the second instance of Visual Studio to say, hey, close down your, get out of your clipboard chain. And then when that's back, allow the shutdown to occur. And then, so it's actually possible to fix this. When you say it doesn't stand a chance, it's like, well.
What you're saying is CodeRush is awesome.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. CodeRush is awesome, yeah. But you could do that. You could actually do that.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So, all right, so what do we need to do? Oh, you know what I want to do? I want a TargetPicker because I want to be able to select the location. So this is cool too because we've worked with TargetPicker once before. We'll do it one more time, and I think this is also going to solidify how this thing works. So there's the TargetPicker. I don't really need to specify any properties here. The most interesting property to me is code. We didn't work with this before. We will work with it today. It allows us to put a code preview, but I don't know what it is now at design time. I'll specify it at runtime. And then inside here, we really want the target selected. You also have an event for when the location is changed and when it's canceled, but I'm going to just go with target selected for now. So there's target selected. Boom. Let's go start this thing up. So here we're determining actually before I start it up, let's do this. We'll say insertion point is equal to start point. And let's declare this as a field because I need to work with that. The thing is when you use a target picker, you're separating the method. So let's see here. TargetPicker1.start. So when I call TargetPicker1.start, it's going to go put up the target picker and let me choose a location. When the developer hits enter and selects a location, then this event down here is going to be called. That's where we need to generate the code. So what we need to do is take this code that we're generating and just pull it out of there. Okay. Notice that there's a local variable called code in here. I'm going to turn that into a field variable. So let's widen the scope, promote that to a field. Now it's down here. We've got that as a field. And then I also want to take the start point. Well, let's just use insertion point instead down here. All right. And then now we've got this piece. So now I can take this. It should be able to extract this method. Wait, we need parameters. Why do we need parameters? Text document.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And then let's widen that scope as well. So we're going to save the text document from the apply operation. And now can I extract this method without any parameters? Active class. Let's take that out.
So this is another good example of why exactly preview hinting is useful. You can tell the level of damage or lack thereof that you're about to do to your code, and then maybe adjust your selection, do some further refactoring ahead of time, and that way you can get it right in one fell swoop.
There you go, right there. Now that's what I'm looking at, right? Roy's talking about this. I was looking at the parameters coming in using the preview hinting to see what we needed to do. So now we've got the fields declared. We're pulling this out. By the way, here's the target picker, and here's that preview showing me what the code is going to be right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can now select the location for it, hit enter, and then we'll call this generate code, like that. And so now what we want to do is this. We want to check to see, I think it goes something like this. Where's my active class? Here it is, right here. If ActiveClass.firstChild equals null, by the way, that was the template I used, equals n, spacebar gives me that. If it's equal to null, then we know exactly where we want to insert this piece.
We do.
Oops, right there. And we can say insertion point is equal to start point. We can say generate code right from here. Otherwise, we're going to say target picker start. Get rid of this. Okay? Are you happy with that, Rory?
That seems good.
I'm scrolling it away. So now here, what we want to do in target picker selected, we want to say insertion point is equal to ea.location. And this is a type called target picker location. So let's see what we got inside there. Do we have something called source point? There you go. So that just gives it to us as that source point. Okay. All right. And then we want to call generate code, I think. Feels good to me. All right, so we're generating the code from there. Oh, but we need to start the target picker. I just called start. We really need to give it more information. And well, we have a couple of different options here. This is the one we want to use right here. So the text view, we want to specify what the text view is. So we're going to say ea.textView. It's in the event arts automatically. So the text view that's selected is already passed in. The language element start. We want to come in here and we want to say active class, and we don't want to say active class. We want to say active class.firstChild or one of its child members. The starting element tells you how the target picker is going to move. So if we specify a member of the class, it'll move by members. If we specify a class, it'll move by classes and its siblings within a namespace, for example. Cool. So this specifies what we're moving among. And then the last one right here, insert code, says where we're going to do it. I'm just going to say use picker right here, which is going to be the exact location we specify with the target picker. Okay. And I think I'm going to run it. So we still have code that's not, oh, there's one other thing. Let's set a breakpoint here. We don't have any other breakpoints. All right, cool. Let's go back into Visual Studio. All right, object initializer test. What are we doing on time? We're about 30 minutes through, not bad. Yeah. Okay, so resource class. Let's hit the CodeRush refactor key. Choose implement IDisposable. One of the things I wanted to do is here, I wanted to say TargetPicker1 dot code equals code. So we get a code preview so we can see it. Now I'm going to run it. Now you can see there's my dispose call as I move up and down. And I can select the two locations, hit enter, and there we go.
Sweet.
All right, so let's figure out what's wrong with dispose. Well, it needs to be public, so let's fix that. Undo, whoops, undo, and then we'll implement it again. And let's go, before we generate code, where is our method? Oh, add method, declare local. We're going to call this our dispose method, I guess is what I call it. And so let's come right back up here. Let's actually come to here. So we start with a new element builder. There's my dispose method, and then I want to say dispose method dot visibility. Whoops. Come on, where is it? There it is. Visibility equals member visibility dot public. Let me go back so you can see all these. Okay, so that's what they are. These will be, if these don't look familiar to you, for example, if you are looking for where's friend, it's there. You just have to specify.
I believe isn't internal the equivalent of friend?
Yeah, exactly. So you just select it in there, and then you will and then it'll turn into friend when it generates the code. So one of the ones that's interesting in here is protected friend, which is this really obscure visibility that is possible in the .NET framework, but I don't recall if it's actually possible to do in C# or not. But it's interesting. Anyway, so we're going to say this is public, and that's the visibility. And now let's move my breakpoint up to here, and let's run. You should say public method now. Uh-oh, why don't I see it? Let me try one more time. There it is. Okay.
So I've got a question about this, because I've just, as people may know, I'm a VB.NET guy most of the time, but I've been trying to learn a little bit about C# in order to sort of jump the boundary whenever necessary. When you do, I guess you're doing implicit interface inheritance here.
Right.
If you were to do the VB side of this, you wouldn't have that option. You'd have to be doing things explicitly, which means you'd have to say for each and every method that was part of the interface, you'd have to go implements my interface dot specific member.
Yes.
And you would still specify the public nature of it. However, if we were to be doing this for C# and we were to do explicit in the same manner as VB, you would not be specifying the visibility. In fact, you wouldn't be allowed to. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is what it looks like.
See, there we go. So yeah, so there's some interesting issues to think about when crossing the language barriers.
You are absolutely correct. We may have to work on. We may have to figure out a solution to that. Maybe we can add an option. Are we going to do explicit or not? And then if it's VB, we're going to set that to true. And then if it's explicit, we won't set it. We won't do public. So let's maybe consider that. Let me undo this. There's one other problem I wanted to fix too, and that is, watch what happens when we choose implement IDisposable and we run it and we enter. We have a formatting problem. The formatting is not, when we make that public, for some reason this goes to its own line right here, that we lose the leading white space on the field declaration. Let's see what happens if we put it afterwards.
That's because the point we're inserting at is after the white space and before the actual thing before which we've picked.
So here's what I think I'm going to do to try to fix that. Let's see, where's my my generate code call? Here it is right here. Let's try this and see if this fixes it. We'll set a breakpoint. We'll come in and we'll say implement IDisposable, run, set the target there, and then when we get to inserted range, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to inserted range, and I'm going to say insert range dot line, dot start dot line plus plus. Just add one line to the end of that. And let's make that next line of code. Clear the breakpoint and run it. Hold on, let me do it one more time, just to make sure I didn't skip over anything. Run, enter. Oh, I know why. I did the wrong one. This was like what happened yesterday, the other day. All right, one more time. So here we go. Implement IDisposable. end. I took the start and I made it one line, which means we were formatting even less. Now run it, and now it should work. There we go. Okay, so that part is fixed. So Rory's right. Are we going to make this public or not? Let's go ahead and make an option inside of here.
Well, this is correct for the language we've got. So let's proceed this way for now, and then as we need to refactor any further, we can do that.
All right, fine. Fine, Rory.
Well, because I don't want to have too much confusion for the C# guys. I know they can't handle things without too many curly braces in.
You are so correct. We definitely need the curly braces or an absence thereof. I'm not sure.
I tell you what, you're always trying to teach me new things or find things I didn't know about the DX core.
Yeah.
You just found one. I just know you could simply add 1 to a range.
Yes.
To the end of a range, and that it would effectively wrap onto the next line in that case.
Yes. Yeah,
that's very cool.
It's. I think that's what's happening here is our range that we're inserting is just for whatever reason the formatter says okay, there's my end, and it doesn't, and it could be. This could also be a bug, right? But it's an easy to work around bug. It could be a bug in our format call. I'm not sure, but at any rate, it's easy to work around and fix. We just give it a little more range for it to format.
I think what I would do is just an alternative way of working around is just to find the first point on the insert point. Rather than the exact insert point chosen, go to the first character on the line, and because you're inserting code, presumably with white space accounting, it should work there as well.
Sure, you can do that too. Okay, so let's do this. We want to add these calls to dispose and GCFinalize. So let's undo, come back in and reapply. And now let's add those calls. So we've got this dispose method. We have an element builder. Hold on, let's take this. I want to actually move this here just to kind of clean things up a bit so my element builder code is all together. And so now what I want to do, let's put, there we go, so text document is assigned. And there's my element builder being built. Element builder, it's probably got something to help us out. I want to add a method call, and I want to add it to the parent, which is the dispose method. So the dispose method is going to its first child is going to be a method call that we're going to add right now, and the name of the method I'm going to call is going to be dispose, and we'll just say arguments like this. Semicolon. Let's come in here, declare local. And I can also get that with just ns close bracket like that. And then the argument I'm going to pass in is going to be dispose true, I think is what we're passing in. And so that's, in fact, I suppose we can just inline that temp. All right,
so this shows another advantage, just briefly, of the element builder versus constructing your own method and your own individual statements to go in it. If you use the add method call and you point it back at the method in question, you haven't had to make the decision as to whether you're adding to the nodes or the detail nodes of that object. That's all handled for you internally. We know what you're attempting to do. So it does simplify things quite substantially.
In fact, we were talking about some what we consider significant changes to the framework to improve discoverability and the ease at which you can construct code trees for generation. And we're essentially talking about having everything in terms of discoverability that you can add, starting with the word add. So, and not only on element builder, but also on, for example, dispose method and any other element. So if that element can accept it in pieces, we can call add on it.
So you'd be parent.add and then whatever the child type was.
Right. By the way, I just remembering in another webinar we did, I had a question about, I had some enlightenments that I didn't realize that was happening before, and it was on what was it on assignment? We had like, let's do this, A equals 2. Let's just do that and look at this in the.
So is this the assignment versus assignment expression, or the
initialized
variable?
No. It's initialized. It's initialized. What was it?
An initialized variable there.
I'm trying to remember the piece that we were looking at. Oh, it was a qualified. It was a qualified piece. It was like it was this dot code, whatever is equal to. It'd be something like this. And so what I was looking at was something like this. What was it? It was, hold on, let me go see if this was the one. Yeah, this is it. So here's the deal. I always thought, or at least recently I've thought, that this was the type name. It's not. It's actually the language element type. So when you look under element type, this is what's put up here. So when we were working at this before, I was like, it's an element reference expression. That's what we need to build. Turns out the real piece we needed to build was a qualified element reference. That's why we couldn't set the property. That's why we were having trouble in that other, the other piece where we had to write the this dot. Remember all those pieces we were doing?
Sure.
So we needed to create a qualified element reference is what we needed to do. And so the key there is looking at the class name. What I want to do is I want to have a right click on this or right click here that says copy class name to clipboard, something along those lines. But that's what I wanted to bring up and show. So that's, I was just remembering that, and so that kind of ties up a loose end that we encountered before. Okay, so we've got a method called IfDispose. Let's just run it and see what we get. And now there you can see in our preview for the TargetPicker, we see the dispose call is there. So we're getting closer. Next, we need a GCFinalize this. So let's do that. We'll undo. We'll implement IDisposable. We need another method call, and here I can actually specify gc.finalize pretty much. If I want to totally make this, if I want to make this truly language independent, I can come in here, I can say split string, and instead of the dot, I can come into CodeRush, oops, CodeRush dot language dot member access operator. And here's the hint, returns the member access operator, i.e. a dot in C# and VB for the active language. Okay, so this is what separates members. So I can go in and choose that. So then if we have a language that doesn't use the dot, it can be something else. But this is one way to do it. Another way to do it. So
made our code manage C++ compatible.
Yes. You can also do this. You could also build this a different way. Because that gc.finalize call, if we come in here and we say gc.finalize, or so, I'm not sorry, not finalize, we want SuppressFinalize is what we want. But so normally the call looks like this, right? Let's bring up the expressions lab and look at that piece right there. The other way you can build it is by saying I want a method reference expression, and it has inside of it an element reference expression inside of it. So that's what you can do this instead, and let's see what the class name is here. Yeah, so just method reference expression, and so you can build it this way, where one of these is let's see, yeah, this one is named the name of this is going to be SuppressFinalize. There it is right there, SuppressFinalize, and the name of this is just GC. So you can build it that way if you want to instead. But you know, it's pretty flexible. You can do it this, or if we say, well, it's just going to work in C# and VB, I can do that if I want to make it simpler, but I can do those. Now, right in here, though, I need to pass in something different here. This is going to be the this reference. We had this problem before, and by golly, it was not a fun thing to get to this. We had to come into CodeRush dot, CR dot, come on. It's only good on its own line. Is that what I have a template for CR dot only on one line apparently. CodeRush.language.generate element, and inside of that we created a new this reference expression.
Yep.
Holy cow, that's what it took to get to the this reference. But let's set a breakpoint here and see where we are. Yeah, I definitely want CodeRush.language.this, you know, reference. I want to turn this into something, you know, like that.
Yeah.
You know, something along those lines. This
just before we go on,
like yeah.
We've got a question: how to get a language-agnostic version of the word "true"?
Yeah, we do not have that right now.
Is that like a primitive expression?
Yeah, you can create a new primitive expression, but we don't have anything. Now, for this, it's not a big deal. I'm pretty sure for VB, when we call the language formatter on it, it will convert it to that, for the VB. Sure. But for languages that don't use this, the answer is we don't have it yet. And, yeah, when you send me an email, we'll add it for 11.2. We'll figure out a way to add that in so we can get true, false, null. We do have one for null. We already have one for null. We just don't want to have one for true or false yet. So luckily, it's the same in in VB and C#, so we're at least language agnostic for those two. So okay, so we are adding a call to GC, and it's SuppressFinalize, and we're passing in a this reference to it. Okay, that's what that looks like. I love edit and continue for this, by the way. Right?
Oh,
isn't this crazy fun? Okay, so run, and now there's our call to GC SuppressFinalize. Hit enter to pop it in there, and we've essentially finished this piece of it. Okay, this piece, however, is not working because we need another method. We need a method called called dispose that's going to be protected in virtual with a parameter called disposing of type Boolean, and then we need to add this check. This is going to take some time to build this. Let's build that next. So I'm going to hit undo. Let's implement it again. Let's apply it again, and now we'll come down in here, and we're going to come in and essentially grab at least these two pieces, like those two. We'll come down in here, and we'll do this. So this is our virtual dispose. By the way, if you ever do this where you copy a declaration for a local and maybe some usage on the local, and you want to rename just that piece you pasted in the same method, just hit rename, and you can rename just those two, even though the dispose method shows up everywhere else. CodeRush knows to grab from here on. So we're going to call this our, it's really good. This is our virtual dispose method. So it's still the same pieces here. This one's going to be protected, okay, and it's going to be, I think we've got an isVirtual equals true, okay. So let's just run with that. And we'll put it down there. And we get protected virtual dispose. Not bad, but we need to have a parameter to it. Okay, so we're getting close. We just need a bool parameter. So let's go back, apply it again. This is what I love about edit and continue, Roy, right? I'm like very quickly coming in, making small changes, and so let's do this. So we need to add parameters to it. I'm in the method. We've got a method, so a method.addParameter, and we can say new param. By the way, this is also why, Roy, when it said parameter, but I said let's use param instead, it was because of the difference. Remember when we did that in the, we saw that in the, and for everybody who's like saying, what? Roy remembers, but I'm not sure what he's talking about. We were here, bring up the expressions lab again, and here we go. There, it said parameter, but that's because it's getting from the language element type. If we go to the class name, there it is right there. Enlightenment for me. So
excellent stuff.
There we go. All right, so we're going to now add a new param, and the param has got can take a type and the name of this parameter is going to be disposing. Whoops, let's get this in quotes. Disposing, and the param type is going to be system.bool, Boolean. All right, and let's run that. Not bad, but I want this to say bool, not Boolean. Okay, undo, let's apply it again. Implement IDisposable, and let's come down in here. Let's hit the CodeRush refactor key. Let's introduce local. This is going to be the type name. That's going to be equal to, choose selection increase, cut it to the clipboard. CodeRush, this namespace is interfering with this. Okay, CodeRush.language dot
get simple type.
Simple type name.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's do that, and we'll run. And then you can see it's got given us bool. And in VB, that'll give us Boolean.
It will indeed, yes.
Okay. All right. Not bad.
Not
now
bad
this code compiles. Let's now add this if block, if disposing. Okay. So let's come back. We'll hit undo. Come back in here one more time. Implement IDisposable. And what we want to do is we want to say we want a new if block right there. And what does it take as parameters? Oh, it takes an expression. Interesting. And then some other stuff. Let's just do this for now. We'll call this our if disposing block. Okay, is equal to that, new if. And virtual dispose method dot I wonder if it has like an add if straight on it. It doesn't have an add if ability. It does have add statements. Yeah, it does have. It definitely has add node, so we can do that. I'm thinking there's something probably better that we can use, but we'll go ahead and do is add node, and that will add its if block in there. Let's disposing block. We want to do. I think it's got a property called expression. There it is, expression. So this is the if expression, and the if expression is going to be equal to a new element reference expression, and the name is this is a reference to that parameter, so we'll just pass in disposing. Now I use element reference expression like all the time, Rory. I am now going to right-click this and say use type in templates and give it ERE as its. So now what I can do is I can come in here, let's just cut that to the clipboard. Now I can come in here, I can type in new ERE and then paste. Right.
So you're using CodeRush features to write CodeRush plugins. Tell me, have you got any templates?
Is that too complex of a concept for you, Roy? Are you?
Oh no. I just love the line up there that's a non-conditional statement that uses the word if 3 times in it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. That's what's. This is what happens. It's a little mind blowing, right?
Slightly
meta.
Yeah.
So let's run it and see what we get now. So now there's our if disposing block. Notice it has braces.
Yep.
Right? Because it has no children and it needs to have braces. Okay. So not bad. So we're there. Now inside the if disposing, we need to check to see if we have any managed resources. And now this is where it gets fun. All right, so we're going to go and bring it in again. And now what we want to do is we want to do this. We want to say, what is it? It's the active class. There it is, active class dot all. And we've used these before like a long time ago, these all properties.
Yeah.
These are enumeration. So all fields, cut that to clipboard, type in FE. Oh, it still didn't get it for me. Oh. All right, so we'll just do this. And if you're in this situation where it doesn't get it and you're not sure what it is, I'll show you how to work around it, like this. So we're going to set a breakpoint here and here. And we'll run, get to here, and then we'll see what the type is. Item. Well, let's see, what do we got here? It's an initialized value. Let's just do this. Let's run it. We can't modify it for each when we're stepping through it, so we have to get out of it before we modify it. So this was like, this said it was an initialized variable. However, that's a pretty specific thing, right? In fact, if we come in and look at these are uninitialized variables. We look at these inside of the expressions lab. Right here, these just show up as variable. Let's go look at initialized variable. Let's drill into it and see where we go. Initialized variable descends from initialized value, which descends from variable. Variable, and also notice initialized variable implements iField element. So a few things we can work with. Variable comes from what? Base variable. So what I'm thinking about doing is coming in here on this and saying base variable.
Yep.
On that. And we'll call this field.
Bear in mind that in other circumstances that would also include parameters and locals, but since we're specifically pulling a list from all fields, we're fine.
Yeah, I think we should be good. So now let's go in here. Let's set this as the next statement, and now we'll come in here. And now what we have with field, very good. So now we need to find out if this field is an implementer of IDisposable. And this is where things get incredibly simple and beautiful. There's a method on base variable called is. And I can just pass in. Can I pass in the full-time name? There we go. System.IDisposable. If the field is disposable, oops, there we go. If the field is IDisposable, then let's set a breakpoint. See if we get here. We are now just in a disposable piece. So now we need a new if block because we need to check to see if that is not null. Right? We need to write code that looks like this. If field is not null, then field.dispose, right? And then field is equal to null. That's the code we want to write. And I'm just writing it here even though this doesn't make sense and won't compile here, just so that I can come up and look at these inside of the expression lab. I got to stop making that go away and instead just hide it or something. So, all right, so let's look at this code. Here's our if block right there. Inside the if block, we have a relational operation. We built that, I think, yesterday. Did we work with this yesterday, Roy? I believe
so.
It wasn't yesterday. It was sometime in our past. It was recent.
It might have been yesterday.
And inside the relational operation, we have an element reference expression on one side and a primitive expression on the other side, which is null. So we need that, and then this is a method call, and this one here is an assignment, right? So we've kind of worked with a lot of these, with some of these before. So let's go ahead and build this. So we need our if check first. Is that on the clipboard? It is. We're going to call this the if field is assigned block. That's what we'll call that. And then we'll come down here and we'll say this dot expression equals new element reference expression. Let's get rid of the of this, and we want to pass in the name of the field, which is we actually already have it. It's going to be field dot name. And let's run it. Let's just run that. That didn't get what I wanted. Let's try one more time.
Do we add the result to anything?
That's probably the problem, isn't it? That's it. All right, so let's do it. Let's. So we need to add. We need our if disposing block. We need to say dot add node and pass in the if field as a sign block to it.
There we go.
Now run it. Let's set the breakpoint here. We'll just move it up to this point and then run it. Now, there you go, if red brush. So now it sees that red brush is inside of.
Particularly clever because it's now removed the outer set of braces because it knows there's only one child statement.
Did you see what Rory noticed? Here, let's run it. Look at that. It took it out. Now, there are options in formatting to force braces for children of like an if block. And if you change those options, I'm pretty sure you're going to see them here. Right? I think it's
that's
just
purely because of the way you've got it set up at the moment for yourself. That's fine.
I'm relatively confident that the answer is correct. And if the answer is, if that's not the case, it's a bug. So this is the way it's supposed to be working. So I believe that's the case. So I'm not going to check it because for time constraints, because we're like right at an hour. But I'm going to. But we're close. Okay, so we're now got the if block with red brush. So let's now get it one step further, and let's add the pieces we need to add are the call to dispose and then the assignment to null. So let's add those two pieces, and I think we'll call it done for today. Or maybe, well, maybe not. Maybe we'll look at some DB issues. I'm not sure. I haven't really decided about that yet. So, all right. So we need to come down in here in this place. So what we need to do now is we need to get a new method call. So we can go back to our element builder. We can say add method call, and the parent is going to be this if disposing block. And the method call that we're going to add, we go the name, we're going to call dispose, like that. And the arguments, unfortunately there's nothing that has no arguments on here, on it at all. I wonder if we can do this. Ooh, I bet we can. So notice this. One of the things that's cool about ElementBuilder is it does have some optional parameters of just a type object, and it actually looks at what you pass in. You can pass in a language element here, like an element reference expression, or you can pass in a string, like we're doing, and it will figure out what to do based on what you're passing in. I bet you this does it correctly. So let's look at this. Let's do an add method call, and we'll run it. Let me change my breakpoint up to here and run it. And there's the call to dispose. Oh wait, it didn't put it in the right spot. Let's figure out why that happened. Am I adding it to the wrong piece?
Yeah, that's all
field
it is.
Needs to be the parent. The field is assigned, we're going to dispose. Okay? Oops, let's keep that breakpoint there. All right, so now you see it. Oh, look at that, and it took out the other parens right there. So if I brush,
That's all right. That'll be back in a second when we add our final item.
Yeah, I love having you here, Rory. I love it. All right, so we've added the method call. Next, we need to add an assignment statement. Let's see if we have. Oops, change is not allowed. Let's go back and implement it again. And now let's see if we can do that. We have an add assignment. Nice. So we want to say the parent. The parent is going to be this piece. What do we have here? The identifier that we're going to assign, that's going to be field.name. The assigned value, CodeRush.language. What do we have? Get null reference expression. That's what we want. Like that. What are our options? Oh, for a specific language we can pass in. So I guess if we wanted to be truly, we use language up above here as well. Let's just, I'll just keep it at that for now, and we'll remember, make a note to ourselves that if we may need to check this if we are going to call this from another language, if we're going to have multiple language, if we have C# and VB, and we may need to check that. All right, so let's see. So there we have that. Let's run it and see what we get. And there you go. If disposing red brush. Whoops, what happened? Doesn't see red brush? Why doesn't it see red brush? Is this just, okay, that's the problem. If not null, it's not red brush, I need to fix that, so let's fix that. Okay, I need to make a check to see if it's not null. We said that was a relational operation. So yeah. I gave it this right here. And what I want to do is it needs to be a new relational operation. So let's get rid of that. Relational operation. The left side is going to be the field name. The relational operator, whoops, that's not what I want. Dot inequality. And the right side is going to be this piece right here. I'm going to just keep it the same in both cases because it's going to create, I don't want it to use a single node and then change its parent. So, okay, so new relational operation, why is it not liking this? What's my problem here?
What type are we supposed to pass to that third parameter? Oh, hang on, it's just the declared, the relation operation itself is not an expression.
It's not? I thought it was. Let's go look in and drill in and see what we've got. Binary operator expression, it's not looking good for that contention. I think it is. Yeah, it is an expression. There it is right there.
All right. Okay,
so that's not the problem. What is my problem? I'm not seeing an error on this. Let's run it and see what my error is here. Cannot convert from...
No, it's purely because you've altered sufficient of the code to compute it, the compiler.
This is the piece right here, Rory. It needs an expression, not a string. That was my problem.
Okay.
Okay, so it needs an expression. So new ERE, element reference expression, field name. And now let's see if we're happy here now. What is this one though? What's going on here? Cannot convert relational operator to token. We may be okay because I just changed the first parameter. Yeah, we're okay now. All right, so now let's run it. There we go. If red brush is not equal to null, then dispose red brush is null. Okay.
But we need to add a qualifier to that dispose. Is it not red brush that we should be disposing?
Oh, I didn't see that. Let's see if is that what is happening? Hold on. Whoops, it's not here. From an IDisposable. Let's see if that's the case.
I think we've just built ourselves some infinite recursion.
Yeah. Right here. So we're going to say field name plus, and then we can get the CodeRush dot. CodeRush dot. Come on, IntelliSense stop. All right, there we go. CodeRush dot language dot. This is totally blocking me here. piece that I need to look at.
We had one before.
All right, yeah, it was get member, or what was it? It was like member access operator.
Access operator. That's it. Yep.
That's right. What I wanted. So let's dispose. Okay, and that should do it. All right.
Oh, look at that. One of our viewers has spotted that particular error, the lack of red brush call, some time ago. Sorry, we weren't looking at the questions quite as closely as we maybe could have.
All right, so there we go. Okay, so now we have the code we're putting in. We can pop that in there. And notice it does not have the braces around here because it doesn't need them. Let's just see what happens when we take red brush and we come in and say, let's make blue brush and make it blue. And now let's come in here and say, let's implement IDisposable. And now you can see a little bit off screen, but you can see the code that's generated. Now we get the braces around like we need them. So,
nice.
So not bad, right? And just to, let's undo it. Let's create a new variable type string, my var, like that, and then let's come in here and we're expecting not to see that even showing up over here in the dispose, and you don't see it there. So not bad. So we are I think at a feature that it's definitely useful. I think it's useful. Are we useful, Rory, or not? I think we're useful. I think we're at a useful feature, but I wanted, like I said, I wanted to kind of take it to a part 2, which I'm going to do. I'll do next Wednesday, and that is what I want to do is I want to handle this scenario. Let me show you. So we get here, and then let me put that down on the other side. Let me put it down below. So we get here, right? We've got our dispose methods that are there, and what happens when somebody comes in and says an orange brush like this, and it's no longer here, right?
Sure.
This is what I want to do is I want to have a refactoring available right there, and maybe even a code issue too, right? That would be
we've literally just got the suggestion in our questions to provide a code issue saying should implement IDisposable, i.e. that I have children who need disposing in their own right.
Oh, that's also very good too, right? Yeah.
So where you have absolutely nothing and you have the 3 items there, so you get resource underlined in this case saying you haven't implemented this, you really should.
It's awesome.
Oh, and by the way, I can do it for you.
Is that what they said? Because I was just thinking we could do that too. But if somebody wants to do that, we'll put the source out and we can let them do that, right? It's not too hard to do that. You should, I mean, if you saw the yesterday's session on building code issues, I think you can imagine how to do it. I almost want to do it really quickly to do this. So I'll tell you what I would like to do actually. Instead of doing that code issue, so let's keep that in mind as well for next time. What I want to do though is I want to at least look at what problems we have in VB. So we can kind of set those up, and then we'll come back and figure out how to solve those next week. Okay? So here's this. Let's undo this, and we'll undo this, and we'll get back to this start. Over in VB, I have a file called resource.vb. Same thing. Let's go ahead and come in here and let's implement IDisposable. And here you can see there's the preview hint. You can see the code is definitely almost entirely VB, but we have a couple problems. One that's interesting to me, oh shoot, I just got this. I hit undo and I got this. So I'm not sure what my problem is on there, but it looks like we may have to look at that. So we'll go ahead and shut that down. Let's run it one more time. And we'll so that's like a problem we'll have to look at. We'll see what's going on with that. The other thing I noticed is in that just before I hit undo is it put the code in after the implements keyword. And I want to take a look at why that happened. That was interesting to me, and so
that's probably the definition of the code block of the class. Effectively, that's all code between public class and end class in the case of VB. However, the implement statement, the equivalent of :myInterface in VB, happens on a second line rather than on the same line as the class signature.
Right. So there may be something that we need.
Well, we could either build the methods first and then do the implementation, forcing the implementation to effectively be inserted at that same point, or we could look for a different initial block to do the insertion of methods within.
It's interesting. It's interesting, Rory. I just noticed if I select this lower location, it actually doesn't put it in underneath this. It's as if it doesn't get that. So we've got that problem. And then we have the other one where it puts it in, and by the way, if I hit undo now, it works. If I do this and I put it above, I think if I hit undo now, it's going to crash. Oh, it didn't. So interesting. I'm not sure what that was about. So it definitely seems like the target picker for VB is a little bit off, and I'm not sure why. I'll have the devs look at that, and we'll see what we can do with that. The other thing is we have this right here, right?
Yes.
In VB, that's not cool. What is the equivalent of this?
You want to say is not, or depending, or just the word is. So if is nothing, so if is not in this particular case.
So I want to say this, if brush is not nothing. Is that right?
Reference types have to use is for comparison in the terms of comparing to nothing or null, whereas you would use the equals for value types.
I see. So let's see what just out of curiosity, what is this inside of VB over here? Whoops, do I have the? It looks like I don't have it available. All right, so I want to see if this expression, it does look like is it a relational? Oh no, it's an is not. The class name is what? It's an is not class is what it is.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you do have there's an alternative way of doing it as well. You can also have a negative, and some people's coding style might prefer this. You can say if not disposed is. It's just an alternate way of saying it.
I see. So I just want to see if just in a little bit of fishing, I'm just going to spend a minute seeing if I can fix that. Detect if we are in a situation where an is not is appropriate. So let's undo this. Come up here and we'll say implement IDisposable. And what I wanted to do is if I wanted to see if CodeRush.language. Where I just totally, I'm like, I have to apologize, I'm like totally hungry and I blanked out. What is it that I'm trying to find?
Looking for an is not, so a comparison of reference types.
So I want to see if I want to see if the active extension, here's where I was going, dot supports is not, that's what I was hoping, to see something like that, to see if it, and there may be something else, but I'm just not, I'm not sure what I need to look for.
Reference, something specific. Maybe there's an abstract name for this that involves the word reference.
Supports null reference expression.
Object type reference, but no, that's not it. Don't know. That's an interesting one.
I'm not sure. So I'm also not sure. So that is, so null reference expression. Let's just see what we get when we come down in here. Oh. Hold on, I just got a suggestion from one of my devs that came in over IM, and he says try CodeRush.language.get null check. Null check. Pass in the value name.
Oh, very nice. That's good. So that's the whole expression.
Yeah, it is.
Which makes far more sense, really, when you think about it, rather than us having to construct it using the individual knowledge.
So let's try that, and we're going to pass in field.name. So get null check. Invert.
That's way nicer.
Isn't that awesome? All right. So Skorkin, thank you very much. That's Alex Skorkin. Go to skorkin.com, SKORKIN.com to see awesome tips on CodeRush. Here we go, running that. Whoa, look at that, folks.
Hey, there you go.
That's not bad. All right, that makes me happy. So now we still have this issue, though, the public dispose, and also the targeting looks like we need to look at that and solve that.
We also have one final thing as well. In that first version of dispose, there is no implicit interface implementation. There must be the keyword implements following the first dispose method, followed by the name of the interface dot member.
All right, you want to fix that? I'll fix that right now. Let's just fix that right now, and we'll get that. So that is inside of this piece right here that we have to change. So one of the things is we made it public because we were kind of hard coding it because that's the way C# did it. But what we really need is something that says, hey, do you want it explicit or not? And then a check to see does the language support implicit or not? And holy cow, I'm hoping that we have something inside of here that says, that does that answers that question. I really am looking for, and Alex Gorton, you're watching this, maybe you can help us here. I'm looking for something like, what is it? We need to go to active extension dot supports, and I'm looking for, actually let's just type this in, explicit, no, implicit, supports implicit implementation rename. That is not what I'm looking for. Implicit pointers, no. So Alex Skorkin, if you're watching this and you got some suggestion for us, we want to know if implicit interface implementation is supported.
It's a great phrase, isn't it?
By the language. So maybe he can help us out. But what I want to do though is I want to come in here and they're inside of here. Now here's the thing. I was looking at this earlier. So there is a property called implements and another one called implements expressions. There's also a method that is hidden, and we took the programmer who hid this method from IntelliSense and we severely beat them with wet noodles and whatever the appropriate disciplinary techniques are that we use that Black Ops uses here at DevExpress. And so this is going to be opened up and visible in 11.2. But I think it's like add implements expressions is what I think it is. And is that what it is? Like that. And add implements. Maybe it's just add implements is what it is. Help me out here, Alex. What is that? It is, I'm going to have to go back. Add implements expression is what it is. All right. Expression like that. And then we want to pass in new, actually maybe I can just pass in a string. Let's see if I can just pass in a string and pass in IDisposable like that. System.IDisposable. Let's see what we get when we run. Yeah. So
what I see here, Mark, it takes an expression.
It's an expression? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And let's see what happens if I do this. Clear local. It's just a single expression is what it looks like. So new ERE, can I do this? Oops, sorry, and ERE. And let's just pass in that. Can I do that? Sorry, I'm like getting, my stomach is saying, feed me. Let's just see what happens with this.
In that particular case, you're likely to have to go .dispose following that, because technically that's what you will be implementing.
What do you mean, like this .dispose?
Well, the method doesn't implement the interface, it implements a method on the interface, yeah.
And what's the string that's passed in? Is it all of that, or is it just this?
Well, you may or may not need system dot, I don't know, that's a fair point.
All right, well, let's see what happens.
You need the member thing, so yeah, that's good.
Let's see what happens, and we'll run it. Okay.
That code looks good.
Except for the public keyword.
That doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, my point earlier was regard to, I thought you were going to dive into explicit implementation, and if the option was positive to definitely do that, then you were not allowed to specify visibility under C#. But you can specify whatever visibility you like under VB. You can make that private, public, whatever you like.
All right.
So that's good.
Good. I'm happy. Oh, I was missing a parameter here. All right, so that's good. Okay. All right. So for next time, then, so it looks like we finished this for both C# and VB. Looks like we have a cool new code provider that implements IDisposable, and in the old, well, actually, we do have this targeting problem in VB that I just don't. My gut feel is don't investigate this now, because I think it's gonna be fruitless for a while. I think it's a deeper problem, and I actually want to throw this off to one of our devs to look at. But aside from that, so what I'll do, Roy, is I'll send you the source code to this, and the next time, so next Wednesday, what we'll do is we will add a code issue that will highlight this is a problem when it sees that it's got a field that implements IDisposable and it's not itself being disposed.
So we're going to put this out there anyway as is, and then just improve on it next time, yeah?
Exactly. And so we'll do that. We'll also add the other one I was talking about, where we already had a disposable, like for example here. I'm sorry, not down here. Here we go. I'll just copy this line of code. So we have this situation here where blue brush is not being disposed. So we need to add a code issue there and a fix for it where it actually goes in and injects code right inside of here. Okay,
cool.
That's what we'll do next time.
Very
okay. Good. With that, Amanda, I'm going to pass it over to you, and I'm talking slowly so you have time to turn on your microphone and respond to me professionally as if you were here the whole time.
I was here the whole time.
Actually, before Amanda, I'm sorry, just before we go to you, Roy, any other questions that we've got that we need to answer?
I don't believe so. There was a quick suggestion that maybe we could use the goto method command, the one for the templates that we brought in 11.1 as a kind of a start point for the target picker. But I believe it has to do with insertion points. I kind of glossed over it at the time, and therefore I think that's really, I don't know if that's applicable necessarily at the moment.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, so exactly. So right now for the target picker, we're starting it on the first child, right? That's where we're starting it there. But what we could do is we could come in here and we could say, let's find at least the first method. I don't know if we have actually. Let's see if we can do that very quickly. Come in here. Oops. Let's create just a quick method here. Proc. And now come in here, implement it. Do we have a first method? I don't think we have a first method property. First node, yeah, so we don't have that, but we do have what? We have an all methods, I bet.
Yep.
All methods. And what we can do is this, is we could do a for each on all methods. And then we can do this. We can say, let's do this. Let's come in here. Whoops. Just introduce local here locally, and we'll just say this the target, and we'll initialize it there. But now we'll come down and we'll say target is equal to method, and then we'll break. So it's not too bad. We'll get out of there.
There's going to be a few people out there who are wondering why we don't use things like link, or you certainly can do for your own plugins. What we're trying to do here is to build plugins that will work for all the current versions of the DX core. So if you have Studio 2005, which from my very dim and distant memory, I don't believe actually shipped with .NET 3. It was purely .NET 2.0 at that stage. There would be no link available, so you can't use the runtime methods, or at least assume they exist. You could get away with installing .NET 3.0 and 3.5 alongside it, but we're not going to make that assumption. So again, we're not going to take advantage of methods there that may or may not exist.
And so it works. So the change we just implemented right there, implement IDisposable, sticks us right there in the method. We could take this a step further and say, well, okay, let's find where the first method that starts with a letter after D. Like, let's look for something that that's an alphabetical insertion if you wanted to. Or you could put it at the end of these methods if you wanted to. But there is, but at least now we're with the methods, so I like this targeting a lot better now. And so now that's we're good. So yeah, I do have to figure out why the target picker is acting strangely over MVB. So we'll look at that. I'll actually throw the source code to the dev, and we'll see what's going on there, and we'll update that. And if you're following Rory on Twitter, he'll he'll tweet when that source code is available, and he will also tweet when we make an update to it if we've got to fix that target picker if you're interested in that for VB. Sure. And with that, I say goodbye. Amanda, thank you very much for pausing with us while we were waiting while we did that last little bit.
No, absolutely. All right, so thank you, Mark and Rory. We have a whole lineup of webinars that are posted throughout the rest of June and throughout July. Check them out and register at devexpress.com/webinars. Coming up for the rest of this week, tomorrow at 10 a.m., building a scrolling tile engine with XNA on Windows Phone 7 with XNA MVP Chris G. Williams. This is the 4th installment in a 7-part series that we're doing on Windows Phone 7. And this webinar shows basic techniques for creating games that use a scrolling tiled map, displaying sprites, 2D graphics, is also covered. And then finally Friday, working with the state machine module with XAF evangelist Apostolos Bekiaris. In this session, we'll demonstrate how to take advantage of the module in our project management application. And again, if you missed anything from this webinar, or you want to review any of the previous CodeRush Feature Wednesday webinars or check out hundreds of online product tutorials, please visit us on the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. Again, thanks Mark and Rory. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks for choosing DevExpress.
All right, and that's it. And I'm now sending Rory the source code.